speaking on that note of radical gender ideology, many of you know about the outrageous penalty, nearly $1 million, $750,000 that former Chilliwack school trustee Barry Newfield was slapped with from our woke BC Human Rights Tribunal. In short, because he was, according to them, denying the existence of trans people by believing there's only two genders. Well, we have a MLA. Her name is Tara Armstrong. We've covered a lot of her stuff. She tabled a bill just yesterday. Let's take a look.
I move that a bill entitled Human Rights Code Repeal Act, of which notice has been given in my name on the order paper, be introduced and read a first time now. There you go. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of this bill is to end the assault on freedom of speech by our Human Rights Tribunal. Last week, they fined Barry Newfield $750,000 for refusing to believe that a man could become a woman for his own personal opinions. This bill will protect ordinary people with common beliefs from politically motivated financial attacks. The Human Rights Code Repeal Act is the only solution to this assault on our rights. This bill will protect the freedom of speech of Canadians. It will abolish the Human Rights Tribunal, a kangaroo court, and repeal the Human Rights Code that the left is using to punish and profit from anyone who doesn't adopt their views. The bill will terminate the position of a Human Rights Commissioner who makes over $300,000 a year to police speech, Mr. Speaker. And it will invalidate any outstanding orders made by the tribunal against Canadians like Mr. Newfield. Mr. Speaker, freedom of speech is the cornerstone of our democracy. The judgment last week was a wake-up call, and Canadians are demanding their freedoms back. To the members in this House, this is our chance to answer their call, and therefore I urge you to vote in favour of this bill. Thank you.
Members, the question is first reading of the bill. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Division has been called.
Well, what do you think they did in socialist governed British Columbia? It voted down that. Of course, they totally quashed it before first reading. And that's something we're seeing over and over. And this is why I say it's important to vote. It's because it got voted down 50 to 37. So it really does matter who's in power. They're not even reading and hearing this out. And that happens all the time when it comes to anything ideological, which is happening here. But Jeff, I'm going to throw to you. Does it surprise you to know that it was voted down? And, what do you think needs to happen? Some are saying, well, we shouldn't repeal it completely. We should amend it.
There are various human rights codes by province and then nationally across Canada, and the provincial ones in particular seem to be used as ideological enforcement for the left, pretty much like Tara Armstrong was just saying. And I think kind of what's happened is that obviously the left has gone much further to the extreme, where you find communism, and communists tend to use civil rights organizations. They've infiltrated civil rights organizations, and they use minorities and women as human shields. So this is going to be kind of a really hard fight to raise awareness about the fact that, look, we're not going after women and minorities when we say we need to repeal this legislation. But what they've done is they've made it sort of impossible to separate the issue with the law from abuse of minorities or hatred towards minorities. So it's a very nefarious and sinister thing that they've done with this. And I'm glad that Tara Armstrong is putting that forward, because at least it's starting the conversation. I'm not the least bit surprised that it would have been voted down on the first try. But I think it's going to probably take quite a while to roll this boulder up the hill, and we might as well start now.
There was something else revealing when it got voted down, and that is amongst the nays are two former BC conservative MLAs that are now serving as independents. Now, they got booted out of the party under John Rustad. I think one left, but it is MLA Eleanor Sturko and Amelia Boltby. Now, if you follow my reporting, it actually shouldn't be surprising that they think everything is fine, it would seem, with this human rights code. But it shows that, again, as they were accused of, it was really liberals, or in this case, NDPers or something like that. It sort of strengthens that argument that that's happening in the Conservative Party. What do you think, Alexa? Why do you think when it comes to this issue, something as basic as, let's say, hey, there's only two genders, something that was completely normal when you were filling out your gender like a decade ago, it was not hate to be like, yeah, it's either male or female. Why are some conservative leaders still struggling with just saying that out loud?
By fear, simply as that. And then now talking about gender is now so toxic that everybody try to avoid talking about it. They try to not challenge the fact that this is biology. There is two sexes, and gender. You can't actually just define yourself just because you feel like something, like as an animal or as a woman. If you're a man, you can't just define yourself like that. You can, if in your head, if you want to, and if you're an adult, if you want to be whatever you want, let's go. But when you're a kid, reality matters. The reality is there is two sexes, and when you're born a male or a female, you're a boy and you're a girl. That's it. That's out. And it's the role of the parents, the institution, to reaffirm that this is the reality, and you can't just actually live in your head and in an imaginary world. It's not how it works. And what we are seeing right now is that institution, the politics, and literally almost everybody go and play in that imaginary world where it's supposed to be a disorder. And we are walking into a really dangerous path.
Absolutely. But you know who would disagree with you? That would be the Premier of British Columbia, David Eby, which I suppose is a compliment of sorts. We've got a video coming up here in just a few seconds of him pushing back against the BC Conservatives for continuing to shed concern over this matter.
Now, Honourable Speaker, I have tried hard through this question period to pretend like everything is normal. But this has been a very abnormal day in the province of British Columbia. It has been a long time in this House since people's basic human rights to not be discriminated against in applying for a job or getting a home or accessing services were put up for debate. Now, the member who advanced her private member's bill said that private member's bill was about repealing the Human Rights Code. There's not a member in this place that doesn't understand what that means. The Human Rights Code protects people on the basis of race, protects women from discrimination, protects people with disabilities to be able to access services.
Members.
And this has been a matter of consensus among political parties in this place for generations. When we were in opposition, the Minister of Energy brought forward a private member's bill as well to repeal more than 160 racist laws that said South Asian people, people who are Chinese, Indigenous people, didn't have the same rights as everyone else. And now we see the opposition standing to repeal something else. Standing to repeal something else. Repeal the basic human rights of British Columbians. Well, I find that disgraceful, Honourable Speaker, and I think the Conservatives owe British Columbians an apology. Human rights are not up for debate.
Okay, I need to say something right away, but thanks God for Quebec. Why I'm saying that? It's because recently we had almost this kind of the same thing when a non-binary, because the option for taking a reservation online, they were not offering non-binary haircut. The tribunal ruled in favor of that non-binary person, despite the hair salon offering 3 haircuts free for that person and change his website. The tribunal ruled for that non-binary, condemning the hair salon to pay $500, okay? And almost everybody in Quebec, including politicians, went out and said this is actually ridiculous.
Good.
This is the most ridiculous thing that happened. And they say that the tribunal, the Human Rights Tribunal in Quebec, should be almost ashamed. Like, it's almost what they said. And many politicians, many people actually have spoke out about that. And thanks God for Quebec to stepping in and saying, like, this is actually going too far, too ideologically like bias and control in one side, and we need to step in and say something.
Absolutely. Jeff, when you look at what the premier said there, what came to mind about his approach and calling for an apology for the BC Conservatives?
I think David Eby is one of those guys. When you're listening to him, you need to pay attention to what he's not saying. And what he did not say was transgender or, any of the LGBTQAIP ampersand asterisks types. He made reference to race. He made reference to sex. So he's playing hide the ball with the real issue there. The real issue is that, it was 2017 when I think Bill C-16 was actually received royal assent, and that was the one to add gender identity and gender expression into the Canadian Human Rights Code as prohibited means for discrimination. Now, that's a mindset. That's not an immutable characteristic like other characteristics that are protected. Now, mind you, religion, I guess you could argue, is also a mindset, but we don't discriminate on that basis either because we believe in freedom of religion. What's happened really, like I can make the argument that transgenderism is a religion for that matter, but what's happened with the introduction of these ideological terms is that now you need to accept this mindset. You need to accept that a man who puts on a dress is a woman, and you need to allow him into the women's washroom. Otherwise, that's discrimination. So that was the particularly problematic point that Tara Armstrong was trying to highlight and address. And David Eby, I think, did a masterful job of utterly dodging the issue and making it all about the things that we all agree on, as if to make it seem like there is no debate to be had here.
Yeah,
and shame on anybody for bringing it up, right?
Yeah, total deflection. And you're right. Everything he said, I haven't looked at the coverage of what he said, but the mainstream media can now easily run with that. Oh, Conservative Party of BC wants to shut down human rights for racism. I mean, and they can play that whole clip and you would never know what this is being birthed out of. And I recently interviewed Barry Neufeld as well, right after this had happened. And he rightfully said, listen, they know he can't get $1 million like in his lifetime out. But this is a shocking penalty for anybody who has a job, a house, kids to raise, and things like that. And that really is the goal. That's why he's fighting that. I agree with that. That's why it's such an important fight. I know that there are legal freedom, free speech advocates coming behind him. For example, our friends at the Democracy Fund, if people are not aware of them, they're going to be helping out as well. The Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, I believe, as well. So people are coming, these groups are coming that work on crowdfunding. So please support that if this is important to you, to support Barry's. It's not an appeal, it's a judicial review, which is the only type of kind of appeal process you can have in these woke tribunals. But this is concerning even for journalists because he's being accused of hate speech. But here's the thing. We already have that in our criminal code. Why isn't he in jail? If this is truly hate speech, not that I'm advocating for that, but that's the measure. He's not even breaking a law, but then you go to the tribunal and then here we are.
But the thing is, there is no discrimination there. The thing is, there is no discrimination. Name me one right that those people who pretend to be something else have doesn't have that we have. Actually, they have the same rights than
Or
us.
more.
But actually, this is their problem. It's that they are asking for more rights than others. And that is simply reverse discrimination for the normal people who are not asking for more rights or are not asking for more privilege, but they are doing it and they have the help of the tribunal, of the Human Rights Tribunal, to help them to get what they want. And this is, I'm telling you, this will create precedent, and we will see more and more of this crazy madness happening a little bit everywhere in Canada, because when an activist see that in one side of Canada, do you think that the other activists across Canada will not try in their own province?
Oh,
Yeah, I think
for
the
sure.
term that they were using was existential denialism.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have to put denialism on everything to make it akin to Holocaust denial, which, by the way, I think should be illegal, or sorry, legal. All ideas should be on the table, but these ideas are not on the table. We're not allowed to discuss them, and we're not denying the existence of people who hold these beliefs. We're just saying that we don't believe that ourselves. We disagree with them, but they're still people. But they're trying to make it out as if we're dehumanizing somebody by disagreeing with their ideological position.
Yeah, it's a critique of an ideology. And, I would say the vast majority, I mean, even in the US, when you look at should males be allowed to identify into women's sports, even the Democrats, the majority of them say no, they shouldn't. So this is being normal. This is the normal. And I know EB said something about, how their side was normal when he did that little talk. But